Yes, sir. Welcome back to another Trap or Die film session. I'm your host of the Trap or Die podcast, Coach Maul, Hen Dog Maul, Molly Maul, Jamual Forrest, man. And listen, everything wasn't perfect for the Washington Commanders against the Denver Broncos in their 35-33 win. It didn't start off pretty for the defense. It didn't start off pretty for the offense. But one thing that was working from start to finish was the way Eric Bieniemy was able to set up his screen designs, his screen calls. He had some well-timed screens. Not only was the timing of the play call essential, right? But at the same time, the execution was as good as it got each and every time he called it. In case you didn't know, the Commanders, I think, got over 80 yards total on the screen calls. I think they averaged 21 yards per catch on these 4 specific screens that we're going to talk about in this film session. But for Washington, man, I think as the season moves along, this is something that you can really tap into and see how Eric Bieniemy, from a schematic standpoint, from a forward-thinking standpoint, is able to counter aggressive defenses and keep them on their toes, especially when that pass rush is aggressive and teeing off at the quarterback. So without further ado, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts. Let's get into the film session. All right, let's start with the first one. 5th play of the game, 2nd and 5 for Washington. And the first screen goes to Brian Robinson. Now, as you'll see as the plays move along, he was able to use his offensive linemen in several different ways to really dress up the screen, right, and the direction in which the screen is headed. So you're seeing right here, right, to start, only Saahdiq Charles goes out with Brian Robinson. So it's really just a one-on-one space block. Whoever's in front of Brian Robinson, Saahdiq has that man. And so from a patience standpoint, you're seeing Saahdiq being able to invite his, 91 to pass rush, right? Like, he's engaging in him to the point where Saahdiq and even offensive linemen altogether has to give the impression that they're getting beat, right? It invites 91 towards the quarterback as he just quickly sheds. And then Brian Robinson, as you see, has the patience to really time this out well. And he gets out in space alongside Saahdiq Charles, right? So now you have a one-on-one situation in space. And it is not over, right? Saahdiq gets a hand on the linebacker 47, but you see Saahdiq, everybody isn't able to pull to the second level, climb to the second level as an offensive lineman or even as a tight end that's leading. Be under control as a blocker and come to balance as a blocker, get hands on the second level defender or the third level defender, and get hands on him in the sense where he literally clears a path out for the ball carrier. And he's able to do just that for Brian Robinson. That's a huge game. The next one I'm going to show you is the Antonio Gibson one. Now, this is the 61st play, so a 2nd and 14, right, late into the game. You lose 4 yards off a run, and now you're in this situation where, you know, these linebackers or this line for the Denver Broncos, you see a pressure package already, right? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders in the box. You got an A-gap threat with your linebacker over top of the center, Nick Gates. And now you're trying to figure out what you're going to do to counter this, right? Now, they only end up sending 4. They send the linebacker back. But now at this moment, you have Nick Gates, right? And you have your guard again, Saahdiq Charles, in space in a 2-on-1 blocking situation, right? Saahdiq is out in front, and Nick Gates is able to cleanly chip that pursuing defensive lineman. Antonio Gibson could have scored, and if only he kept his feet, he could have scored, right? So again, passing him off, Saahdiq is, right? Passes 93 off, again, selling it. Be clear, passing him off, now getting in space. 99 and 93 are working on the loop, so they take care of themselves. Nick is able to get just enough on that pursuing guy to knock him on his ass, and Saahdiq is able to once again get downfield and open field and get a clean block on the second level defender. Antonio Gibson takes care of the rest. Again, if he keeps his feet, he may score. Eric Bieniemy is doing a good job of dressing these things up. Keep that in mind as we go through with these, right? So eye candy, you use Mitchell Tinsley in a situation where, you know, that eye candy is trying to get the defense flowing away from the direction of the screen, right? But for Cole, and what his responsibility is, he needs to sell that he's in this max protection look for Brian Robinson. So let's let the play run. I'll let the play run so we can get a clean look at it. But you see Brian Robinson is out in towards the sideline, and Cole Turner's able to get the first down. I think it's a second or first and 10. Cole Turner's able to get 9 on that screen. Again, if he keeps his feet, you may have a house call. But again, look at the structure of the play and look at the response by the defense. Mitchell Tinsley takes one linebacker away from the middle of the field with his look, right? Sam Howell does his pump fake. But now you have Brian Robinson, and the intent of Brian Robinson is to get the remaining defenders near the intended target, and Sam and Cole Turner get those remaining defenders as close to the sideline as possible, because we're going straight up the middle of the field. So Cole Turner has to hold this block as long as possible, which is what he does. Invites that rush to think that he's winning this rep, and now you dump it off to Cole Turner, who slips the defender, and he has lead blockers in front of him. So let's go ahead and get an end zone view of what this looks like, right? Right up the middle, you have your edge or your defenders who went wide with Brian Robinson to beat the blocks. Now can't recover for Cole Turner up the middle. And if he split this cleanly, you're looking at a 2-on-1 blocking situation right here for Cole Turner, who, as long as 22 is defeated and Brian is able to pass 22 off to Nick Gates, you're talking about a Cole Turner who's running on the sideline with two lead blockers. Lastly, another good play. Again, are we paying attention to the lineman and how he's utilizing these guys and getting your most athletic offensive lineman in space, right? This one, now you have 2 guards that's in space with Brian Robinson. Now, I hate the fact that they tripped. I hate the fact that they tripped over each other in open space, but you're seeing how they dress this thing up. Another pressure look, right, from the Denver Broncos. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders on the line of scrimmage. At the snap, now you're sending 6, right? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defenders that's rushing the quarterback. A perfectly timed screen call from Eric Bieniemy. And you're sending Brian Robinson across formation, right? Hiding him behind the line of scrimmage. He just has to find that space to slip through, which he does. And he gets open for Sam Howell, who has to give a leaning off platform throw to get around the edge defender and get it into Brian Robinson's hands. And now you have, look at the space right here. Look at the space. If these 2 guards keep their feet, this is a house call. Now let's go to the end zone angle so we can see a little better version of it. You got Sam Cosmi and Sadiq Charles, your 2 athletic offensive linemen, out there together, and they trip over each other. Hey, man. And it was a great design, and I'm glad that they were out there leading or trying their best to lead Brian Robinson to the promised land. But yes, those are some instances of some screen calls that Eric Bieniemy dialed up for the Commanders offense this week against the Denver Broncos that worked very well timed. He dressed them up nicely. He hid the direction in which they were going. He hid which blockers were leaking, and he got the best athletic linemen out there each and every time for Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, and Cole Turner. So without further ado, man, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Film Session. We'll have a couple more coming your way. But until next time, man, peace.
Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Down, set, watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.